this episode of the Sunday Movie Marathon.
Every single week when I watch an episode, I'm really sorry, but my laptop is just frozen again, and it has done that little fucking annoying hiss thing.
Oh god.
Yeah, so I'm sorry for any listeners that have to hear some inaudible audio from my part. It's this fucking laptop. What?
1 minute. I stopped recording at 4 minutes. Oh god! Oh god! Okay.
Every fucking time something goes.
I'm gonna record. We're starting Inception. We'll use the Zoom.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'd just say Chris will have to use a lot of your Zoom chat.
Oh god.
You don't frighten us, English pig dogs. Go and boil your bottom, sons of a silly person. I blow my nose at you, so-called Arthur King. You and all your silly English niggets. Welcome to the Sunday Movie Marathon.
Hello.
I ask this every time. What movie is that from, and what accent were you trying to do?
Well, that was a pitch-perfect accent of the French variety. And the movie was Monty Python and the Holy Grail, one of my favourites.
A classic indeed.
It is.
If that's what English-speaking French people sound like. I've never met any of them. But it was beautiful. Serenaded the ears.
Mm-hmm.
How's everyone doing this week?
Good, mate, good. Final of WandaVision tomorrow, so I'm excited for that.
Hell yeah. I have two episodes left to catch up with.
Every time I watch an episode of WandaVision, the next week just flies by. I can't believe we're in March already.
Yeah, to be fair, for me, January went like super, super slow and felt like 4 months in one. And then February just went by like instantly. And now here we are.
Yeah,
here we are.
March. I didn't even realize it was March until I was like on the Xbox with my brother, and he was like, "Oh, it's Mum's birthday in 2 days." I was like, "It's not March yet." And he was like, "Yeah, it's March 2nd." I was like, "Oh fuck." It is just, yeah. To think we're a year into lockdown now. Well, a year into the pandemic.
Yeah.
Well, as of the 21st of this month, that's when we went into lockdown, or 23rd.
But don't worry, in 3 months' time it goes away, as Boris said.
Yeah, but the furlough scheme is extended till September, so... Ooh. But that just means, though, summer is in 3 months, and I cannot wait for the house parties that we are going to have.
It's not gonna happen.
It's amazing.
No,
my house parties with me and my housemates. No one else can come, that's fine. I'll still enjoy it. It'll still be really good. But our landlord bought us a new table, so the old one that we've just taken the top off, and we're like, oh, what can we do with it? What can we do with it? And I was like, we'll just draw a dartboard, a really big dartboard, cut it into sections, write drinking rules on there, and throw darts. And whatever you land on, you get to give out to someone else. Perfect drinking game.
Nice.
Well.
Fantastic conversation, guys.
Now we've obviously we've let's get on to some movies.
Yeah,
Sure thing.
so crack on.
So, my pick. I picked a film that I'm a huge fan of, The Grand Budapest Hotel, directed by Wes Anderson. This is a film about a hotel. So, there's a guy, played by Ralph Fiennes, and a bellboy, and the two of them go on a huge adventure because he steals a painting, essentially. And they're being chased by the police and the family of people who think that Ralph Fiennes murdered someone in their family. I think I described that really terribly. I should have actually noted the plot down.
Maybe.
Or just read the synopsis.
Or that, yeah.
But to be fair, the people that listen to this podcast have the opportunity to watch the movies within the week that we do. So hopefully they've watched it as well, so they know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And if
I'm
you
sure,
haven't,
I think pretty much all of the people who listen to this podcast have seen the film, to be fair.
Yeah. And if you haven't listened or watched the films along with us, what are you doing? Why are you tuning in every week? Get involved.
I know I watched it.
Yeah, same. I thought this movie was fucking hilarious. I loved it. It was so good.
Yeah. I watched it twice. It was,
the week that we had to watch it?
Yeah. It's so good. And it flies by as well. It's like an hour and 40 long. Doesn't really feel like it. It's just, I think that the writing is so good. And I think Wes Anderson, as a director, is someone I've watched like a lot of his movies in like the last week, just trying to get through everything that he's done. Because of course they put a lot of his movies on Disney Plus recently, so I've just been trailing through them. And he's a director who's definitely, he progresses with every movie that he makes, and it's always a joy to watch a movie that he's helming. They're all very comfortable. And I definitely feel that with the Grand Budapest Hotel. He's got a very distinct style that I feel it's definitely at its peak here. I think it's just been refined over the years.
I was about to say,
I'd agree.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen a movie as unique as what this was, just in the sense of the acting, writing, and the cinematography of the movie. It was there were just shots. So at the beginning of the film, when Mr. Gustav, or what's the guy's name, Ralph, whatever his last name is like setting up the
Ray Fiennes.
That's the one. Is setting up the hotel room for the old woman who dies, and it's just like the camera just follows him to the door, follows him back, and everyone's setting up the table. It's just one shot, just stuff like that. And when they go to visit her after she's dead and pay their respects, and it's just like it films the outside of the screen that they're standing behind, and then they walk in front of it, and everyone in the background is still like just background acting. Yeah, I thought this movie was great.
Yeah, Wes Anderson's definitely a very visual director. Like, his visuals always look incredible, and he always have like an incredible style. And I think the majority of his films are like quite small in scope, like normally only set across like a handful of locations. They never really have like a huge like adventure feel to it. But this film definitely like has that. Like, it's a very grand and huge film, like compared to the other stuff he does.
Yeah.
He's done a few animated movies. Just brought up his like movie discography, if that's what you'd call it. And he's done like Sing, Fantastic Mr. Fox.
He did Sing.
Another animated movie. Yeah, it's on his movie IMDb, Sing 2016.
I think he might have had a cameo.
I think he directed it. He directed
Hold up.
Fantastic Mr. Fox, and he directed Isle of Dogs. I think there is only animated movies.
Yeah.
He like took on.
Yeah,
just,
I don't know why
he just took on a completely different medium of filmmaking when he did Fantastic Mr. Fox, and now he's done Isle of Dogs as well.
I don't know why it's shown this up in his IMDb thingy. That's weird.
Yeah.
But this is the only Wes Anderson film that I've seen, going by the list that I've seen, and it's quite. I don't know. Max said this is I'd say the pinnacle of where he is, and which is good because this was an amazing movie. But I really want to watch a lot of his other stuff now. But I've like seen the best of the best now. So if I watch anything else, how am I gonna feel?
Well, they're all like very different movies, I think. Like you've got.
Yeah, I suppose you appreciate all of them regardless. This
is a very grand story, I would say. But he does well at different types of stories, I think. Like, I watched The Royal Tenenbaums again last night, and that's like, I love that movie. That's one of my favorites from him. And I feel like that's probably like a more personal movie than this is. It's more like insular. That's just about like a family, but whereas this is about more about showing the world and the characters within the world and just how like expansive it is.
The Royal Tenenbaums is definitely my favourite film of his. Like, it's my second favourite film of all time. But I think, like, on a technical scale, I think this is like his best film. But like you said, all his films are like quite different. They all have that same visual like style and scope, and they're all still like just as like heartwarming and charming. But they're also very different in a lot of ways.
See, even though this movie came out in it was just watching it, I got a very... I don't know what era it would be in, because I don't really watch a lot of early era movies, but it just didn't feel like a movie that was made in the 2000s because of just how it was filmed. It was so something you would find back in like the 80s or 90s. For me, from what I've watched personally, again, I haven't watched a lot of stuff from them eras, but from what I did watch, it's very reminiscent of them. But like, I was so surprised at how many actors were in this movie. I was pissed off when Edward Norton showed up, but every other one, I thought, like, it's just the names that are in this. When Jeff Goldblum showed up, I couldn't stop laughing, and when they threw his cow out of the window, I was like, all I could think of was The Fly.
That scene is hilarious.
But like yeah, it's so funny. The humor in this movie was just, it bordered like dark-ish comedy, but it wasn't. It was just so funny. The parts where they're on the train, which happens at the beginning, at the end of the movie, where he's just like, "Don't touch him. He's my he's my apprentice" or something, and then they just get into a fight on the train. Both times just had me in bits. When he's on about banging the old ladies as well, and she's like, "He's 84. I've had older."
Yeah, I love the fight. I love the fights. They like work very well with like his directing style. It's not like the kind of thing you'd expect from something this like mannered almost in its presentation.
Yeah,
but then like when a fight breaks out, it's like really funny to see. So I think that it elevates the comedy as well, the style. There's like a scene where Gustav and Zero are at the will reading or something, and he's just like, he walks into the room, and then Adrian Brody comes up and he's like calling him gay, but also that he fucks older ladies, and then like he punches him in the face. It's just like this very like
I love that scene.
Very well mannered, but like really well structured fight scene. But it's not really like a fight scene. It's just like one guy gets punched, and then another guy punches the guy that punches his friend, and then another guy punches the guy that punches his friend, and it's just like until like they're all on the floor, but like Willem Dafoe's just there, and he like brings up his knuckle, and he's like, yeah.
Yeah, that when that scene happened, it reminded me of so much of when I used to watch the Bottom live shows, and they just used to like the physical comedy that they used to do with their fight scenes. It was just so fucking funny, and it's like it's very rare that you get a fight scene in a movie, because every time like I watch a fight scene in a movie, it's always exciting, and you're like, oh, what's gonna happen next? In this, I was like on my ass. It was just funny. It's the part where the police come to the Grand Budapest Hotel and they're talking to Mr. Gustav, and he's like, "Oh, she's dead. You think I murdered her?" And then he just runs off, and everyone's just stood there watching him. And then the police slowly run after him, and it's just like it stays on shot. It doesn't move, and you just see him run up the stairs with all the police chasing him.
That is really great. I love how going off that, like basically every character has their own like distinct run in the film, and nearly all of them are just funny, like the way they move and run around and stuff. There's something about them, like especially Gustav, and that way he like runs up the stairs and like flails around almost while he's running.
Yeah, all the acting is really
so good.
Brilliant. Ray Fiennes is he's one of those actors. Anything.
This movie just seems like it would have been so much fun to work on, just like be involved with. Because I can't remember if I've seen that Ray Fiennes in anything else.
In Bruges?
But he seems so familiar.
In Bruges, Harry Potter.
In Bruges. Official Secrets.
Yeah. In Bruges, Official Secrets, Harry Potter has been in all the stuff.
Who did he play in Harry Potter?
Voldemort.
Oh, he's Voldemort.
Yeah.
No way.
Probably why you can't tell it was him.
That's so weird. No, it's like it's not just the makeup. Like even him in Bruges, where he's wearing no makeup, like just the different style of acting. He plays this role so well that I just didn't even realize he was either of them people. But looking at him, you can blatantly tell it is.
Yeah, well, like I say, he's an actor who can take on literally anything that you give him.
Yeah, he just disappears into these roles, and like his mannerisms, the way he talks, like all these like tiny subtle things he takes on incredibly well.
I just love like this, like you're saying, like the small parts of the script and how they deliver it in the actual movie just made me laugh. It's like when Max was saying about when the guy calls up and calls him gay, and then says about he fucks women. He's like, well, that doesn't make sense. And then what's the other part where they say something to him, and he's like, how do you think that's supposed to make me feel? But he just delivers it in such a like monotone but comedic way. I was like, my fucking god. And I was watching this at like 5 a.m. My housemate had work the next day. It was like her first day at her new job, so I had to be really quiet. So I was just like laughing into my pillow, trying to shut up.
The comedic timing in the film is just generally really great. Like the editing's like really fast paced, so is like the music, and like the dialogue's really well written, and all of the actors like are clearly great when it comes to comedy, and I think everyone just adds to the comedic styling of the film, and it leads to it just being hilarious constantly.
Even like Tilda Swinton's in this. She's only in it for like 5 seconds, like 5 minutes, and then like she just dies. I'm like, Tilda Swinton was in this, and like she's barely in it, and she dies.
Yeah, Madame D. What's your guys' favourite scene in the movie?
There are loads of them, honestly. I like when
what's one that stands out to you?
I got like a load of quotes down. Just like I love the dialogue in it. It's like there's a point when they're on the train and Gustav is trying to explain why he fucks older ladies. He's like, when you're young, it's all fillet steak, but as the years go by, you have to move on to the cheaper cuts, which is fine with me because I like those. More flavourful, or so they say.
That made me cringe so much. Not because of like it was a cheesy line or anything, but I was just like, that's fucking gross. But I laughed. It was good.
I like the scene where Zero visits Gustav in prison, and he's like talking about how he had to like kick the shit out of someone because he was a snivelling little run. He goes, he's actually a dear friend of mine now.
I like
just like the way he delivers it, like what he's saying, like it's not something you'd expect to come out of that voice, and it's just so hilarious.
Like the part in the prison escape where like the guy's about to grass on them and he's shouting guard, and then the really big massive guy with the scar on his face just like kills him, and Mr. Gustav is like, oh, it's you, thank you very much, you kind wonderful person, and they just carry on. He just nods at him and walks off.
Yeah, that was great.
I really found it funny in the train when they've stolen the photo or the picture, and they're like, he's like, I'm gonna keep it. It's gonna remind me of her. And then like 5 seconds later, he's like, we should sell it immediately just in case they come find it. And he's like, see, they make a pact or a bond, and it's like, yeah, we'll sell it and you'll get like 1.5%. And he's like, I'll write this up now. He jumps off the bed, grabs the paper and throws it at him, and then gets him to write it as he's saying it out loud.
That was great, yeah. I got that written down, actually. He's like, he sat up on like the bunk bed. He just goes up there and he's like, you will be my sole heir. There's not much in the kitty except for a set of ivory-backed hairbrushes and my library of romantic poetry. But when the time comes, these will be yours, along with whatever else we haven't spent on halls and whiskey.
It's just, yeah, it's such a theme throughout like all 3 movies that we're gonna review today. The beginning of them I found quite boring, but obviously I think a lot of people find the beginning of a movie boring anyway, but then it just like I got hooked after like 5-10 minutes, and then I was just so invested, just like could not take my eyes off the screen.
Yeah, I do love the prison sequence, like when they're breaking out. They have to like get all these like little tiny tools from Agatha that she like bakes into the pastries, and then like I was like, this is very Paddington 2 like. I think Paddington 2 stole the prison breakout sequence from this movie, but this does it a lot better, I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Paddington. Yeah, spoiler alert. Sorry, Paddington 2. Paddington goes to jail.
Oh, well done, Max. I was gonna fucking watch that movie. Yeah, that scene was funny.
Makes me want to watch it more.
That part of the film was funny where they're just like digging this big hole with these little tiny tools.
Yeah, I love the part when like they open like a door in the floor, and then the guards just look up and they're like, oh shit. So a guy just has to like jump down with a knife or with like this like razor that they've fashioned.
Razor blade.
And he like the throat slitter or something, and he like kills all of the guards, and then one guard just stabs him in the chest, and he dies too after killing all of those guards. And Ray Fiennes is just like, I think you call that a draw.
Yeah, that was great.
I like when they get the pastries in the prison, and Ray Fiennes like, can someone pass me the throat slitter, please, so you can cut it.
That whole scene of him getting like inducted into the scene, into that little gang, and they give him the drawing, the schematics of the prison. He's like, did you draw this? And he's like, yeah. He's like, the line work is incredible, some very good potential for like the artistic way or something. I was like, fuck's sake. He just never breaks his character, and it's just like he plays such a posh twat, but it's one of those people with so much charisma and just plays the part so well that he just fits into every scenario that he's put into, whether it's in prison, around high stakes people, in like the whole when he's gone to the will reading, just everywhere.
Yeah, he's very flamboyant, but it really fits.
I think this might be my favourite Ray Fiennes performance. Like, I just think he's so great in it, and the character is just generally like one of the most engaging and fun to watch characters in any Wes Anderson film. Like, anytime he's on screen, he's just a barrel of fun.
From what I've seen of not Wes Anderson, of Ray Fiennes' roles, like, yeah, this is my favourite. I would gladly watch a movie that just has him playing this character throughout it. Yeah,
I'd probably agree. As much as I love him in Bruges or the Harry Potter movies, this is a real show stealer. I think he's fantastic.
And his relationship and chemistry with the Zero character is just so funny. I loved it.
He's like his mentor, and he's Zero's his protege. I love when like he breaks him out of prison, and then like Zero hasn't like found a place to stay or like a safe place, and he hasn't got his lettre de panache, his perfume, and he's like, how could you? How dare you do this? He's like fuming at him. He's like, oh, I expect that kind of behaviour is all right where you come from, but not here. And then he was like, I left to escape the war, and all my family is dead. He was like, oh, I'm very sorry.
Yeah, it's just that whole scene, because like in the background you can just see the people they escaped with getting in this taxi, beating someone up, throwing them out of the taxi or the escape car, and driving off. All the while, Zero's just like, yeah, I haven't bought this, I didn't find this. And he's like, starts apologising to him, and he's like, oh, don't make excuses for me. And then he has to go.
That was like right after they got out of the prison hole. And then like his mates are just like, all right, see you, we don't have much time. They go onto this bus that's just cropped up, and then they kill the driver.
Yep. Saying goodbye as well, they give Mr. Gustav a hug, and then just slap Zero and go, good luck, boy.
Yeah. I love his like really blasé way of saying, like introducing his friends from prison to Zero, and like he introduces them all, and he's like, Gunter was slain in the catacombs.
Just the writing all throughout is just incredible. Like, it's incredibly witty and funny, and I think like dialogue wise it's just incredibly well composed and well written. Like, it's very clear that Wes Anderson is just an incredibly talented writer, and he has like a clear love of like literature and stuff, and I think he does a really great job of writing all these characters who have their own like incredibly strong personalities just through their dialogue. There's never a point where it sounds like they're speaking with like one unified voice. Like, everyone has different like mannerisms, and they speak in completely different ways.
Most of his movies are very very well written. They can really rely just only on the dialogue alone. But obviously we get a lot to back this up in like the cinematography, as we talked about. I want to go back to like when Connor said he thought this was like it felt of an era of the past, and I get that a lot with like I don't know if they did like matte paintings for some of the scenes, but it feels like it. I know that they did a lot of like miniatures, like the hotel itself, the exterior is just like a miniature that they built and put against a green screen. But then like a lot of the other like there's like pictures of like the cliff that the deer is standing on, or like a lot of backdrops to when they're just like standing on high places. They look like paintings. I'm not entirely sure if they were, but I think that felt very of an era of like the 80s, 70s.
They're taken from old postcards of like hotels and stuff that were in the Library of Congress.
Oh wow,
that makes a lot of sense now. I didn't even realise Bill Murray was in this film for a brief cameo.
He's in like all of. Yeah, he's in like basically every Wes Anderson film from his second film onwards.
Yeah, just a good relationship with the director. Then
yeah,
he uses a lot of the same actors in his movies. But I think this you see like Owen Wilson, Jason Schwartzman, all the characters you expect in a Wes Anderson movie, but they don't really take center stage in this as they would in his other movies. I think that was probably a wise decision. It sort of sets it apart from his other movies. Not that devalues his other movies, but it's just it does make this one stand out a bit more.
Yeah, and now with the French Dispatch, he's like brought back most of the cast from this again.
Whew, yeah, I can't wait for that.
Yeah, going back to what you were talking about with the visuals, this film just looks so gorgeous. Like, it's very clear that Wes Anderson has taken like a huge influence from like early cinema into his films. Like you said, how it looks like there was like matte paintings and stuff, and a lot of like the framing, the way they use like these composite shots and incredibly saturated colors that almost look like they were painted onto the shot. It like reminds me of like 30s and 40s cinema when color was just becoming a thing, like something like The Wizard of Oz, where everything is just so like dreamlike and so bright and colorful. And that's something he does in like all his films that I really, really love.
It probably helps that he's like set it in a place that's like fictional, I think. So you get the kind of dreamlike aspect with like this war that's going on, and it's like set up in like a really high place amongst the clouds. The Grand Budapest is.
Yeah, I like the weird little elevator that they have to get to the hotel. It's like at an angle. It's so strange.
Yeah. Yeah, when writing the film, he like obviously took like influence from history and loads of real life events. Obviously, there's like later on in the film, like you see him being controlled by like a government, like clearly inspired by the Nazis, and there's like all those like fake Nazi symbols in the Grand Budapest at the end. In a lot of ways, this film just kind of feels like a love letter to like the 30s and 40s that also kind of briefly delves into how dark those times also were.
Yeah, it's obviously elevated by a lot of like the comedy, which I think Wes Anderson's really good at doing. I think he's kind of like Taika Waititi does that a lot. He mixes like really sad and dark topics with a lot of lighthearted comedy. For some reason, it works really well, but it's like it never feels like too sad. It always just feels very comfortable, just like just very comfortable filmmaking. I think that's like the way I would describe his filmmaking.
Yeah, it's just knowing where that line is between it becoming too dark and being humorous, or too sad, sorry, and just losing the audience at that point.
Yeah. You got to know what kind of emotions you want to elicit and what kind of genre you ultimately want the story to take.
Yeah. It's like in this movie where obviously Mr. Gustav cares a lot about this woman, or acts as if he does. And obviously she's dead and he's just on the train. And again, it's talking about how he slept with so many old women, and it's just another one.
Yeah.
It's like making light of a dark situation, but knowing where that line is funny.
I love a lot of the like effect work and stuff. Like Max was talking earlier about the usage of miniatures throughout. It's like the way he does it in a way is like it's very obvious that it's not a real thing. Like it's very obvious that it's something that's been made, but it's like incredibly stylish and it adds something to the film. Like Wes Anderson isn't someone who like shies away from making. He doesn't like making things look like incredibly obvious. Like he doesn't like making things look incredibly real. Like he like doesn't have a problem with things looking a bit fake if it is visually unique and stylish, and I think he does that really well in this. Like that's the ski chase later on that uses a lot of like miniature landscapes and stuff, and like all the shots where you can see like people moving around in the distance and stuff, that was all done using stop motion, and it looks really cool.
It's every time that you see like so you know the part where they're in a taxi driving down, is that also done with a miniature? Because it was very similar to the ski shot, and they both just went incredibly fast.
I think so.
Yeah, it feels like
it was just so funny to see this taxi just zooming like 100 miles an hour down this road, and then later on just seeing
what's his name? Where are you? Willem Dafoe, that's the one. Like just put on these skis and then the doors open up and he just zooms down this hill at like 100 miles an hour.
That was shot really well too. Just like him putting on the skis, it's like this close up on his hands and then his feet, and he just like zooms out of there. That was like one of the best scenes in the movie for me. Was like when they try to go after him and they're like, "What do we actually do when we catch him? He could kill us." And he's like, "That's true. We better stop." He's like, "We can't stop." So they just crash, and then Ray Fiennes is just like over a cliff while he's like reciting poetry that he can never finish. He's never able to finish a single poem in this movie. It's really funny. But then like Zero's feet are just like coming out of the snow, like he's completely buried in it, and then Willem Dafoe is just like kicking the snow to help him. No, not help him. To push him off the edge of the cliff, and then Zero comes along and he just pushes him off the cliff while Ray Fiennes is delivering this poem, and he's like, "Holy shit, you got him!" That's like one of the best parts of that movie.
Yeah, that bit makes me cry with laughter every time. Like just the way he just like so suddenly like just starts falling down. It's just so funny.
I laughed so much watching this movie at home alone. I could only imagine. Like, I think at some point later this year we're gonna have to, when we can actually meet up, like sit down and watch this movie.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Oh yeah,
it's a good hangout movie.
I think I've gone through all my notes. Don't know if you guys have anything else to add.
That's pretty much everything that I've got on it.
I love when Gustav goes to Tilda Swinton's like corpse. He's like sitting over looking at her corpse. He's like, "I don't know what cream they gave you at the morgue, but I want some. Honestly, you look better than you have in years. You look like you're alive." And then he like takes her hand, he just like throws it back. He's like, "All right, I'm done."
Yeah, he like looks at her nails. He goes, "Oh, you actually changed them," and then just throws it back down, and then just kisses her dead body. And just like the look of the maid in the background, she just looks horrified that she's seeing him do this. He just walks off like nothing's happened.
Yeah. I gotta say, I do think this movie is hilarious, but I don't really laugh out loud. To be honest, I think it's very funny and it's very intelligent. And whenever like a joke happens, I don't like chortle, but I'm just like, that was clever and that was funny. I can acknowledge it, but I don't have to like sit there in stitches, you know. It's just
I was in bits throughout a lot of this movie. In all fairness,
I am like every time.
Not like guttural belly laughing, but just like, you know, where something's funny, you're just like,
yeah.
One other thing I wanted to bring up is that I really appreciate that Wes Anderson didn't make anyone put on an accent throughout. Like everyone is doing their natural accent. Like a lot of actors who even in other films like would have a fake accent, like Saoirse Ronan. Like a lot of the time she plays American characters, and in this she's her native Irish accent.
Yeah,
I just appreciate the fact he does that. Like doesn't get anyone to put on a fake accent or anything that may not work or may take away from the performance.
Yeah, it helps that it's in this different world as well, so it doesn't feel inauthentic.
Yeah,
it works well.
I love the part where Zero's just like, I work 6 days a week, and he's like telling the story, and he's like, I work 6 days a week and a half day Sunday, 5 a.m. until just after midnight. I'm like, what? That's not a half day. You get 5 hours free a week.
And then he's like, he's showing like the dinner and stuff about what they can have for lunch, and it's just what's his name, Mr. Gustav, sort of reciting a poem, and he's like, "Oh, quickly, eat."
Yeah. Ratings?
Right. Yeah, ratings. I think we know what to score this one as.
Jeff Goldblum's.
Yeah. I think we've done that one before, though, haven't we? We've already used Jeff Goldblum's.
Jeff Goldblum's dead cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, alright. Sounds good. Just another quick top. I love it in that scene where he throws the cat out the window, and he's like, "Did you just throw my cat out the window?" And then he looks at the window, and the cat's just on the ground.
Yeah, it's just like flat as a pancake.
He's like, "Did you just throw my cat out the window?" And the sisters are like, No, I don't think so. Even though like they just saw him do it.
Yeah. That's the fourth time my fucking laptop has froze throughout this shitty thing.
Yeah, like I said, I think in the last episode, Wes Anderson's like probably my second favourite director. I have really enjoyed everything he's done. This is probably my second favourite film from him after The Royal Tenenbaums. Just think on the technical level, this is just a giant achievement for him. And I think he's only going to improve with age and as he keeps making movies, especially if he's going to carry on making films like this, which it seems the French Dispatch is going to be. But yeah, this is a hilarious, incredibly well-made, visually beautiful film. And I'm going to give it 10 Jeff Goldblum's dead cats out of 10. It's one of my all-time favourites.
Wonderful. Yeah. It's definitely up there in terms of Wes Anderson's filmography for me. I do probably prefer Fantastic Mr. Fox and The Royal Tenenbaums, but it's up there. And I think just Wes Anderson is just a really interesting director. I'm on board with whatever he's making. I'll go to the cinema every time he makes a movie. It's just like it's an event movie, you know. He's probably just one of the masters working today. He's got this distinct style that nobody is able to emulate. And like if they did, then they'd just be copying him. He's really carved his own niche. And this it's one of his best movies. And can't wait to see The French Dispatch also. So I'm gonna give this one 10 Jeff Goldblum's dead cats out of 10.
I'm gonna make this easy for everyone listening. This movie was incredible. I think it's one of the better movies that I've reviewed or watched in this podcast. And it just seems to be any film with that Ralph, what's his name? Ralph Fiennes in, or Ray Fiennes, sorry, that I just love. This movie was hilarious. I love it. Especially like I think this is my first Wes Anderson movie that I've seen as well. So it's a good one to get in on. So I'm also going to give this 10 Jeff Goldblum's dead cats out of 10.
Oh,
nice.
Perfect score.
Spicy.
Yeah.
When has that happened?
I think we've have we ever given a 10 across the board before? Was this the first one?
I think Waves is the only other one.
Yeah.
Did we all give Waves 10?
Yeah.
Well, that movie was terrible. I'm joking.
Why you go there 10?
Oh, I felt
just
good on
a
the day,
prank.
didn't I? Yeah, it's just a prank.
I was feeling it on the day. Next up, we got a movie that I recommended. It is from 2016, directed by Garth Davis, his debut feature, I think. It is about a little Indian child who gets lost in India. He loses his brother, and he goes on a wild, wacky adventure. It's not too wacky; it's pretty sad. He's traveling around India on a train, many, many miles away from his home, and he's trying to find his way back. But unfortunately, things don't really work out too well, and it's basically just this long story told over decades of him trying to find his way back home. What do we all think of Lion?
You just described that in the most awkward way possible. I would not have a clue what this movie was about if I listened to that. But that's
no,
what we should be
I
watching,
described
guys.
it perfectly.
I think he described it better than I described Grand Budapest, to be fair.
He didn't even mention the fact that he got adopted, sent over to Australia.
Yeah, well, we'll get to it.
Yeah. Wow. This movie was great. It's another good movie.
Yeah, it was okay.
Did you? I can't believe that you did. Yeah, I was gonna say.
I liked it the least out of everyone.
I can't believe that you only thought it was okay.
Like, watching the beginning of this movie, I was like, for fuck's sake, Max has chosen another movie where I've got to read the subtitles all the way through, which, again, is not an issue, but for me, it's just
annoyance that I'd rather not have to deal with, but I do. And yeah, even like 5-10 minutes in, like when it was still at the part where I had to read subtitles, I was like, oh, this is getting good now. So started like paying a lot more attention, and this movie was just, yeah, I don't know, I can't tell you why I thought this movie was incredibly good, because I didn't know any actor other than Nicole Kidman
and the girl that was in the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street. Because I recognised her from somewhere and had to IMDb her, and yeah, it was from there. Didn't know anyone else other than them two. Yeah, but this is based on a true story as well.
It is.
Yes, this actually happened to a guy
who got lost in India, was put into like an orphanage, adopted and sent to Australia, and then years and years later found out that, or decades later, found out he could use Google Earth to track where he actually came from, and eventually did, and went back home.
Yeah, it was like this new technology that sort of came about.
Yeah, which made me laugh, because Jesus, Google Map is like on our smartphones nowadays. So when they were sitting in the front room and his mates are like, oh, there's this new thing, Google Earth, where you can go anywhere on Earth, I was like, how old is this set?
Yeah, it's like ancient. It might as well be set in the bloody 1800s, mate.
Nah, not like that, but it's just so weird to like hear a movie that was made in, when was this made? 2016. It says 2016, but on Amazon Prime it's 2017. But even a film made in 2017, when I'm watching it and they're like, yeah, Google Maps, this new brand of technology where you
can go anywhere on Earth. I'm like, man, that's been around since I was in secondary school.
Well, yeah, 2008.
Yeah, but early days.
So,
but
Chris,
like more,
you did not
where you going,
really get to this movie as much as we did.
No, I completely understand why people would like it. I struggled to really find myself getting invested for some reason. I did enjoy the first half a lot, but the second half I just kind of felt, for me, it felt a little bit dull and repetitive. There was very little in the second half that I really enjoyed, but there was nothing I hated. I don't think this is a bad movie at all, and like I completely understand why someone would watch it and like love it or think it's like incredible movie. I think maybe it's just not really my cup of tea, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say incredible, but I would say that it's a very good movie. I don't think it does anything overtly wrong. It just, what it does right, it does really well. Like, I think it looks amazing. I think it depicts this story about as well as you could probably tell it. I think the acting is all very good, and I think the storytelling, maybe it could lag a bit in the second half. I'm kind of with you, Chris. But for the most part, I'm just very entertained by it. And maybe it could have been cut down a bit. It's like it's 2 hours long. Perhaps it could have been told in maybe like an hour and a half or an hour and 40.
Yeah, there were so many parts where it was repetitive in the second half of the film, just where he's going back to this board with like trying to find this train station that he was at, and there were just so many scenes where it would just be going back to that, and I'm like, right, maybe 2 establishing shots of doing it and then move on, but it's just literally like every now and then back, and it's like, okay, move on now, we've got like 10 minutes left and he hasn't even gone home. But when I was watching this, I wasn't necessarily judging it based upon what I was seeing on screen, but more
how incredible of a story that this is for this guy, that he lost his home, went halfway across the world
to Australia, like he had a new family, an adopted brother, a new life, and then found obviously where he did come from, went back there, found out that sadly his brother had passed away, but he had a younger sister, and it's just this incredible story of like reuniting with his estranged family,
and just like now he's literally just got 2 sets of families, and it's just incredible. And then when you see like the actual footage of his new adopted parents coming in and meeting his birth mother and his actual blood relative sister, it was just I don't know what resonated with me, but it was just such
an incredible story to watch, and to know it was based on something that really happened. I don't know, that just enhanced the film for me, because I don't really have any notes on the acting. It was all good. The cinematography was as you would expect from a movie like this, but yeah, it was just enhanced knowing that this is something that a guy actually went through. And I know there is stuff in movies like this that have to be dramatized, and as we've spoken about before, but even with that said, like it's just incredible.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with you on the fact that maybe it looks like standard the way a movie like this would look. I think it looked really fantastic. I love like the landscapes that it uses, like a lot of like India, the way it shows India, like a lot of these cityscapes. Obviously, India is like just this huge country, and at least where he went, like he gets off this train that's taken him so many miles away from his home, and then like he gets off the train and all these people there, it's packed, it's just this huge train station with like thousands and thousands of people, and he's trying to like call for his brother, the dude, and it's just like, yeah, this is like, that's kind of exactly what a kid would do, even though he's definitely traveled. He knows he's traveled that far, but he's still like crying out for his brother. It's also a very emotionally resonant movie with me. Maybe like it could feel a bit contrived at points, but mostly I love the experience I got with it.
There was like one thing that I did take note of at the beginning of this film, and I don't think there's any possible way of a kid remaining that calm in a situation that he was in. Not once did he cry about losing his family.
Yeah. Maybe that was a bit unrealistic.
Yeah, I've seen people lost in Commercial Road that are fucking crying for their mum and dad, and I'm like, bro, you're like 50 meters away from them. This kid was hundreds of miles away. He's been on this train for hours, days, and this train is like, what, trains going like 70, 80 miles an hour, probably more. Like, he's gone away. It's like 1,200 miles his radius was.
When he was on Google Earth. And yeah, he's just there, like just so calm. I'm like, bro, you're handling this incredibly well. But I don't know, I think that was more entertaining to watch than a crying child for story purposes. That's probably why. I think he would have actually cried in real life. I think anyone would have.
Yeah, maybe.
But it's also just the something else that interested me about this movie is just how much of a toll that it took. He's been fine knowing, and it like I haven't read anything about like the real life events of this happening, so I don't know whether this is just made for the movies, but it's something we can talk about. Is that throughout all of his adult, let's just say older teens, young adult life, so let's say like 17 to like 25, let's say, from them ages, where he's cognitively aware that he's not with his real parents, and he knows his mum and brother are out there, he doesn't really seem to show any remorse for it, in a sense. Obviously, he must care, but it's not a real big part of his life. He's okay with just leaving it where it is and moving on with his life. But as soon as he finds out that there is a way to find his original family, it just becomes an obsession of his. He quits his job, stops talking to his adoptive parents and adoptive brother, shuts himself away, breaks up with his girlfriend, and it just destroys him, and so nearly ends every positive relationship in his life because of this one obsession of finding his parents. And yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. It's the fact that as soon as he knew there was a way to find them, it was something that just took over his life in a matter of weeks and months.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, obviously the guilt of like knowing his mum probably looked for him, couldn't find him anywhere because he made a mistake as a kid that probably ate him up.
Yeah, well, it's also the part of the movie where he says that he feels sick and disgusted because they live such privileged lives while his mum and brother are out there living in the slums collecting rocks for work and doing all this hard graft, and he's here in a different country, relatively privileged compared to what he would have had. But then there's also, this could have been a blessing in disguise for him as a person. I mean, he went on to earn a good amount of money, live a good life, have a good relationship with his adoptive parents, and he can transfer that onto his actual birth mum and sister and help them in ways that would not have been possible if this event didn't happen.
But I say that breakup scene was kind of weird for me. It was like he just
it was so strange
whatsoever to get away from her. It was like, oh yeah, we live such privileged lives. I hate that you're white, or like you live here in Australia and you go to a good school, and like my mum's out there shifting rocks. I break up with you, we're done. It's like, okay.
It's parts of that in the movie where I just sort of look and I'm like, that's a bit strange. But then it could be the whole, it's the self-destructiveness of this obsession taken over. You do irrational things.
Yeah.
I think we've all I think we've all had a point in time where that has been the case, where we've overreacted to something, or we thought the best decision was a selfish one, like what he does, and at the time it feels right, but in hindsight, not so much.
Yeah, he's like trying to distance himself from his Indian roots throughout the film as well, because obviously he doesn't know that he can find his family again with Google Earth.
Yeah,
he's like, they like ask him about like India. He's like, oh, I'm adopted. I'm not really Indian. It's like when you're adopted from this young of an age, you're taken to a completely different environment, different country. It's like you kind of lose that part of yourself, where like he sort of tries to forget about his family. Like this is his new family now. It never really goes away, because like how can it? But he's like what does he say? He's like he's saying that he comes from where they picked him up, that city. But then like he kind of breaks down. He goes, "I'm not really from that city. I'm from nowhere. I don't even know where I'm from."
He just says he's lost.
Yeah, I'm lost. Yeah, that was a really emotionally resonant scene for me.
Yeah. And I found it quite, it was quite humorous. The fact that he couldn't find his home city because he was a child and he was mispronouncing it. But at the same time, right, if any, like, I find it's like, because it's the word that he says, I can't remember the home city of where he's from, but he says it as one word when it's two. But it sounds so familiar to the actual city that he's from. I'm surprised he didn't find it earlier.
Yeah.
But then again, this was in 2008, so search engines were nowhere near as powerful as what they are now. So,
saying he's from Ganeshtale. Well, I'm from Ganeshtale. They're like, that's not a place, man. Ganeshtale is not a place. And he realizes it's two words.
And it's
Ganesh.
Yeah, Ganesh. Talios. Yeah, something like that. Even pronounces his name wrong.
Yeah. He doesn't know how to pronounce it. He doesn't know where he's from. He doesn't know his own mother's name because, like, obviously you just call her, like, mum, don't you, or mummy or mama. You don't really think about it when you're that age.
Do you reckon he kept that name?
Probably. Must have gotten so used to using your, like, what you thought your birth name was. Like, it'd be weird changing it randomly.
Yeah.
I think a better name for him would have been Skadoosh.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah, going back to what I said earlier about how I liked the first half a lot. I loved how how chaotic a lot of the first half was. Like, there's definitely slow moments, but there's like constant noise, and I think they really capture that incredibly crowded and chaotic like nature of like India and that sort of area incredibly well, and like they perfectly display like just the feeling of getting lost in like a huge crowd. Like love the shots are especially when like Saru's walking through the station, it's all shot from eye level, and I think they just do a great job of putting us in his shoes and like getting across the emotion that he clearly feels.
Yeah.
Even if he's not actually emoting it himself.
It's like scary.
Honestly, when it was the shot of him in the train station at eye level, and he's like a third of the size of all these adults, I was like, I can relate to that, because every time I'm in a fucking club, there's just normal sized people around me, and that's what it feels like. I'm not even joking. You have no idea how short I am compared to everyone.
Got to talk about like all these interactions he's had with these people that he's meeting in India. He meets like this one woman who like takes him up to her house and like washes him and like gives him food, and then like she calls in this other dude. And he's like, oh yes, he's exactly what they're looking for. I'm like, Jesus Christ, how scared must he be? He's like sizing him up and like feeling his like body. It's like really like uncomfortable. Like, and then he runs away. I'm like, yeah, you should run away. And then
that was quite an uncomfortable scene to watch.
Mm-hmm. And it's like the guy who like he's eating his meal, and so he's just found this spoon. He's like imitating trying to eat because he can't eat anything. And there's the scene where he goes under the tunnel, finds all these homeless kids, and the kid like gives him a piece of cardboard to sleep on, and then they get chased away by these or like they're being kidnapped by these men. And I don't really know, you don't really get to know who these people are that are chasing these kids and like kidnapping them. But
it is 100% child traffickers.
Yeah. But the point is that like Saru doesn't know exactly who they are, and they never stop to tell you this is who they are. So it's like you're put into the mind of Saru as well, where it's just these unfamiliar people, and all you know is you need to run away from them, you need to get away from them.
I'm not gonna lie, when I was watching that scene and Saru was running away, because we were talking about a scary movie a few weeks ago, all I could think of was Shorty, run, bitch, run! I made myself laugh.
I gotta love the there's like one shot in this whole movie, it's probably my favourite shot, is when he's running away from the guys, and then he goes up onto this bridge, and it's like nighttime, and there's just these like bright lights that are illuminating the bridge, and it's just this really wide shot, and it just shows Saru on the bridge, and he looks tiny. It's like just this communicating this like really like hopelessness, this hopeless feeling, to where like he's just sort of he's in this huge place. It's like no way he's going to be able to find home. But that was a gorgeous shot.
Yeah, I just think there's a lot of like long shots in the first half that I really like. I just think that half like it combines like this feeling of like fear and hopelessness like that Saru's clearly feeling, because obviously he doesn't know where he is, he's lost, he can't find his mum. But there's also like a hint of nostalgia in there, like how it displays the freedom of adolescence, like especially in like the earlier scenes of him like running around with his brother, or even like some of the scenes of him in the orphanage, like learning with his friends and stuff, and like playing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I love that he like sort of you get like flashes of his brother as well. who's like sort of in scenes with him after he goes to Australia. So he's sort of like, he's just there with him all the time. I really like that. He's like lying on his had to put into his living room, doing a bunch of shit with the maps, and then like his brother's lying on the mattress with him. It's really great.
It's definitely just the he has a lot of guilt for mainly his brother, I'm guessing, because his brother definitely got reprimanded for this, for losing his brother. But it's almost like a form of survivor's guilt in terms of it's just like, how can I put this?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Even though like he finds that his brother is dead in the end, not in that sense, but just the fact that it's not really his brother's fault, but he knows his brother is going to get blamed for this, and it's just all how his brother is going to be feeling, knowing that he thinks he failed as an older brother to keep his little brother safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
but
like
what he didn't know is he's halfway across the world, living in air conditioning.
Yeah, he's living it up. That was like a heart-wrenching scene when he went back to the to his home and he finds his mother. He's just like in tears, like apologizing to her, saying sorry. She's like, "Oh man, yeah, you really feel like he's held this guilt in like his entire life."
Yep, and then he finds out his brother had died, and that he's got a younger sister. God, that must have been weird.
Died straight after he went missing as well.
Yeah, that night. Got hit by a train.
Oh, what did he actually die the same night?
Yeah. That's why I didn't.
Yeah, he got hit by a train. Wasn't it like super close to where he went missing as well?
Yeah, must have been. I mean, he was on foot. I don't know why, like, Gadoo brings Saru with him for night work, even though he's told him that he's too young, and he knows he's too young. He's like, why did you do that? He's like, no, I can lift this bike. I'm super strong. I can lift anything. And then it's like, yeah, but he's still a child. Why did you bring him in the first place?
To get him out of the house.
Yeah. Get his steps up.
You saw their house. Anyone would want to get out of that house.
Fucking hell, Chris. That's the best they've got.
Living in the slums.
Fucking hell. Oh. You come out of some crazy shit sometimes, you do.
A lot of the second half is like devoted to Saru and his relationship with Rooney Mara's character Lucy. I do think they have like decent chemistry, and a lot of like the scenes of them together is like quite wholesome and sweet. Like there's like the scene of them walking down the street and like skipping on the opposite road. But I did feel like her character was kind of like completely unnecessary in this grand scheme of the story. I didn't really feel like she added anything to the film at all. Apparently she was like completely made up as well, so it wasn't even like a necessary thing to tell the real story.
Yeah, you could have taken this relationship plot out of the movie and it still would have been the exact same movie. It would have made it would have made sense. Like you said, this relationship just had nothing to offer to the movie. I liked her in it, because I liked her in Nightmare on Elm Street and I liked her in this, but it just seemed so unnecessary. She didn't like provoke him to do more. She wasn't involved in the search for his family. She didn't go out there with him. He just broke up with her after knowing her for a bit. When she came back, he told her that he was still searching, then told her he had found them, and then went off.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I do. I really like their chemistry. Is the thing though. So I'm not too pissed about her being there. Maybe she did seem a bit unnecessary. And maybe if she was taken out, he wouldn't really have anyone to talk to, I guess. So I guess that's why she was there. It's like otherwise he's just like in his own head and you can't really communicate that with dialogue. So I get it to an extent, but I still don't think that she was completely necessary.
But this is the thing. He shut himself off from everyone. He didn't talk to anyone. He didn't tell his parents what he was doing. The only conversation he ever had with her that gave any exposition is when was saying about how he feels guilty because he feels privileged living this life when he knows his real parents don't. But that is something that he could have had, or they could have put in to have with his real parents, because then it would have developed their relationship even further. And it is something realistic that he'd have some form of animosity towards his adopted parents for giving him a life that he feels that he doesn't deserve. I don't think it was done well to just shoehorn that in with a relationship for the sake of putting it in and giving us a bit of a explanation.
Yeah. I'll agree with that one. I'll agree with you there, Sonny Jim.
But I've exhausted every avenue that I have for this movie. I liked it.
Yeah. We can do ratings now.
I've got a couple of things I wanted to briefly...
Go ahead.
Actually, I'll just briefly mention one thing. I felt like a lot of the music was kind of all over the place. Like, some of it was just like super generic, like drama music, just with dramatic pianos and strings. But then there was like bits where they were like incorporating like Indian music and stuff, and that stuff I thought was really, really great.
Yeah.
It was just a shame that the rest of it wasn't like that. Also, that Sia song they use at the end is just so cringy and cheesy. It's literally just her song The Greatest again, but it's got Indian sounds in it. Yeah. They're like the exact same songs.
It is.
Mate, it's almost like watching Happy Death Day 2, where they do a montage and it plays the whole song of Hard Times by Paramore just to a montage, and it was just like, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah.
It's a shame, really.
That was awful.
It almost undercuts like the emotional response of the real life's footage that they're trying to show of him going back to see his and her meeting his adopted mother. I was very upset to just have that song over that.
I will say the final shot of this movie had me in tears, like just where he's like picturing his brother on the train tracks again, and he's just like telling him to come on, and he just like walks towards him, and I was like, oh yeah, the camera's gonna like shoot to his brother, and then it's gonna go back, and he's gonna be a kid again, he's gonna be reliving this special moment that he had with his brother, and it fucking happened. Called it.
Yeah.
So, ratings.
Yeah.
Out of skadooshers, I think. We'll mispronounce the mispronunciation of a name.
Okay. Yeah, I liked the movie. I wasn't like too into it. Like I said, I understand why people would like it. I just don't think it was really my thing overall. But it's not a bad movie. I'm gonna give it 6 skadooshes out of 10. It's like a very high 6, like maybe a low 7, but yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I really like this movie. I'm glad that my grandmother recommended it to me. This is my second time watching it. I enjoyed it just as much as I did for the first time. I think it's quite a simple story, but it's told very well. I think it looks amazing, and I think all the acting is very good. And I also really like the kid as well. Very very good performance from him. Maybe he didn't like cry enough, but whatever.
He's a good actor, but he didn't cry enough, so fuck him.
And yeah, it was weighed down a bit in the second half, but for the most part, I really enjoyed it. I'll take points off for Dev Patel cutting his hair at the end. I was upset about that, but I'm going to give it 8 skadooshes out of 10.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it brief. I'll give it an 8 as well. I like this movie. I was judging it more on the actual, like, putting myself in the shoes of the real experience of this. And that's where I was coming from with this movie, and I liked how the film told it. But as we've all said, there are parts that weren't needed, parts that were slow, parts that were just revisited too many times. Yeah, I have to keep it down now because my housemate has got work tomorrow, and I don't want to keep her up, so bring the mic close. So, this week, I chose Inception. Now, I've been on a bit of a tangent, a bit of a trajectory in the last few weeks of just choosing movies that I know Max and Chris have watched that they like and are decent, and ones that I've never seen. and this week was Inception. So if you haven't seen it, essentially, a businessman is propositioning. What's his name?
Who's Saito?
I can't remember the main actor's name.
Oh, Leonardo DiCaprio.
That's the one. Leonardo DiCaprio's character to perform what is known as an Inception, where it's going a dream within a dream within a dream to plant a memory or a thought that is unique and original to the person's dream you're invading, in order to like cut the competition for like this electric company. And it just goes through that. Leonardo DiCaprio's relationship with his kids in the film, and then with his late wife, who we find out in the movie has passed away. There's a bit of a plot twist towards the end of how she passed away. That is literally all I can describe this movie as. After watching it just twice, it was so fucking confusing.
You did watch it twice then?
I did watch it twice. I watched it on Sunday, and then I watched it this morning as well. After, I say this morning, my sleeping pattern's fucked. So early hours in the morning, watched it again, and there's a few things that I picked up on that I didn't the first time round. But so I know you guys have watched this, and you've said good things about it. I really enjoyed this movie. Like, even just like the beginning thing, it wasn't as hard to follow as what I thought it would be. It all made sense, and like there was no part in the movie where I was confused about what was going on. But there were so many things that I picked up on the second time round watching it, so I'm so glad that I did that. Watched it a second time round, and yeah, Christopher Nolan film. The amount of actors that he brought in from like the Batman trilogy movie as well.
Yeah, you got Tom Hardy.
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine. He's in everything that Christopher Nolan makes, isn't he?
Yeah, got the guy played. Is it Scarecrow?
Yeah.
Then you got the bird or the girl, sorry, who played the daughter of
Talia al Ghul.
Ra's al Ghul. Yeah, that one. You got her on it. So there's a fair few actors. Joseph Gordon-Levitt again. It's from the Batman movies, so a lot of familiar actors that I had seen on screen before, and I love the chemistry between all these actors. I love the acting in this movie. The story was really, like, I was on edge throughout the second half of this movie the whole time, just literally on edge.
It's that kind of movie. It's incredibly suspenseful, it's high tension, it's like basically non-stop in terms of like just action, I guess. And maybe it's not like crammed full of action, but it's like it takes its time in setting up what it wants you to know and how you should understand what's going on in the film. And I don't ever get the sense that I'm being shown something that doesn't make sense. Like, I felt that a lot with Christopher Nolan's new film Tenet, where it's just like he just throws a bunch of shit at you and he's like, oh yeah, it's like it's all this stuff, and just go along with it, and it's high stakes and the world is ending. But in this, it's like they take their time in explaining it all to you, and it's not like world ending, but it's like you understand why they're doing it, you understand the motivations of every character, and you get why this is happening. And it's elevated by this very unique, well, I don't know if I want to say unique, but I kind of do, because we talked about Paprika before, and how this kind of took a lot of what Paprika was doing with going into dreams, and I think it does enough to distinguish itself as its own thing. But yeah, I just think
it's
very...
What was Paprika again, sorry?
Yeah, the really weird anime that none of us understood.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's fucking strange.
And yeah, I just think, honestly, I get tired of Christopher Nolan's shtick every so often in a lot of his films, but I never feel that with this film. I think this is my favourite Christopher Nolan movie, and it may be his best. Like, Dark Knight's also up there, but this is just fantastic.
Yeah, this movie was just so good, and even the script. So the second time, so I watched it the first time, and then a couple days later, I watched a review of the movie, not a review of the movie, an explaining of the ending. So if anyone doesn't want to know what happens at the end, skip forward like a minute or two. But like the cliffhanger that it leaves you on, like, is Leonardo DiCaprio's character in a dream or is he in reality? And there's just stuff like noticing that he doesn't wear his wedding ring in real life, but he wears it in his dreams. And the ending, he's not wearing it, and there's scenes where he's not wearing it and he's in real life, and it's like, well, is that a clue for him being in like the real world? And then there's like an interview or a talk that Christopher Nolan does about this movie and the ending specifically, and he's like, it doesn't really matter, because at the end, Leonardo is like every reality matters. So even if Leonardo DiCaprio is in a dream, he's completely happy with being in that dream.
That's an interesting
The movie just fought off my head.
Yeah, like Max said, this is an incredible movie. I've watched it, I think this was my 4th or 5th time watching it. I watched it in the cinema when it came out, and then like on DVD like a few months later. And then I watched it for the first time in like a decade last year. And I've always really enjoyed it, but there was something about it this time where everything just clicked more so than ever before. I do think it's a film that gets better every single time I watch it. Like, so I pick up on a lot of like subtle details that I didn't notice. Although they like constantly explain things, and there's never a point where I was like confused or anything. There was never a point where I didn't feel like they weren't explaining what was going on. Every time I watch it, there's like something I understand a bit more than I did before. Like there's like maybe a bit of dialogue that I didn't remember, and it makes everything make a bit more sense, even if I thought previously it made complete sense. I think that's something quite interesting about the film.
I really liked watching it the second time through. Like, I had a better experience watching the movie. So yeah, I'll agree that I think this is a movie that if I watch it a third time will only just get better and better each and every time that I watch it.
Yeah, it really does get better and better each time. I managed to see the 10-year anniversary screening last year after mistakenly being led into a showing of Jurassic Park, but I righted that right away. Well, I'm not saying Jurassic Park. Why have you led me into Jurassic Park? I don't think.
Wait, what happened?
Well, here's the thing, right? I go into the cinema, and an usher comes to me. She goes, "What are you saying? Inception, please." Okay, I'll take you in to see Inception. She takes me. She's like, "There's your seat," and I'm like, "There are children sitting in my seat." And then I sit down. I'm like, "All right, well, they've stolen my seat. I guess that happens." So I just sit like near where my seat was, and then I look up the screen, and the beginning of Jurassic Park is playing, and I'm thinking, is this an advert for Jurassic Park? I guess I'll stay for a bit, see if it's just an advert for Jurassic Park. I don't know why I thought that, and then I was like, no, this is just actually Jurassic Park. So I have to like get up and like escort myself to my own seat in the theatre that's actually showing Inception. But when all's said and done, I had a fantastic time at the cinema. I think that's the way to watch this movie. I think that's the way to watch every Christopher Nolan movie, apart from maybe Tenet, where I just absolutely could not understand a word they were saying. But this is just that experience heightened this movie tenfold. And
yeah,
I agree that it kind of gets better with every watch, but that was like the definitive point for me where I just like, I'd already fallen in love with the movie, but that's like the best experience I've had with this movie.
I can watch movies and a lot of them think like, yeah, this would look so much better or be enhanced if I was in the movies, but that's only to get a bit bigger picture and better sound. But I can't imagine, like, I've never seen a Christopher Nolan movie in the cinema, but his movies are made for cinema. That they just seem incredible to watch at home, let alone especially something like Inception. I couldn't imagine what that would be like watching that in the actual cinema, like the movies. It'd be an incredible experience. But yeah, I don't know where to start with this movie because it just fucked with my head so much. Like, we can go down the avenue of what really happened between Leonardo DiCaprio and his wife in the movie, the ending, what that means, his relationship with all the other characters, the whole sequence of going a dream within a dream within a dream, tricking the guy thinking that they're there to help him when they're not. There's just so much to unpack with this movie.
Yeah, there is a lot. I actually don't have loads of notes because I just got so sucked into the film that I was like, by the end of the film I was like, oh shit, I've barely written anything down, so I had to like play catch up this morning, like before we recorded.
I definitely think that if anyone hasn't seen this movie and they're watching a review of it, you need to see the movie. Like, just watch it for yourself, because I don't think what we talk about will do it any justice. Because it's a movie on such a large scale. There's so much to like. We could probably do a whole episode talking solely about this movie and everywhere that it leads, and like all the plot points and everything. Just so much. We could do an episode just about that. So it would do yourself some justice and see the actual movie. But finish this podcast first.
Yeah. Then give us a big fat 5-star rating.
Can you give ratings on Spotify?
No.
Do it in like, in spirit. I gotta love like the intro, which is like you're introduced to Leonardo DiCaprio, Dom Cobb, and his team with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Arthur. This is like a dream within a dream, and we don't understand that's what it is. First of all, you don't understand that it's a dream until you see, was it Arthur wake up in the
hotel room
in the apartment, yeah, and then after that it's just this like unfolding of events where you realize that that's also a dream. So I kind of wanted to get like Connor's thoughts on that, because I know he hadn't seen the film until this point. So I was watching it and obviously knew the whole concept of the film. It's about going in people's dreams. So at the beginning of the film, so the first shot of this film, the first scene, is the ending. Yeah. Which
I like halfway through the film, I realised when they were talking about going into the void and whatnot. But like the beginning of this film, so when like they come out of the first dream and he's still talking about like, oh, I know we're in your dream. And he's like, no, we're not in my dream. It's because we're in like his. I can't explain it, man. It was just, it caught me off guard. It's the same as when he recruits the young girl for the architect in the movie, and Leonardo DiCaprio's having a conversation with her, and she's like, just like, how can you think you're in a dream and it be real? And he's like, well, in dreams you don't really remember how you got there, you just remember the moment. How did we get to this spot here? And they're in a dream, and it's just there's so many clues put into it that watching more times around that you pick up on. But the first time watching it, I was like, what? So they started off being in an apartment, and then it turns out they were just on a train.
Yeah,
it messed with my head. If that's the if you want to know what I thought of it, it fucked with my head. But it wasn't confusing, if you get what I mean. It just made you think, rather than leaving you like thinking, oh, I have to rewind to watch that again because I didn't understand it. I understood it, but I was just like, fuck. Like, that's just mad.
It's like a little enjoyable mindfuck, this whole movie.
Yeah, literally. Neil deGrasse Tyson says, get your mind blown at least once a day. Well, this blew my mind every other fucking scene.
Yeah, the way the film structures is incredibly unique. Like, Christopher Nolan plays around with time and timelines in just this incredibly interesting way. Like, at points it can be like a little bit overwhelming, but I don't think there's ever a point where it like gets flat out confusing or it doesn't work. He always like plays with time in different ways in all his films, and like recently it's getting a little bit stale with like Tenet. but I think this is like a film where he like does it incredibly well.
Yeah. Like you're saying with the whole it not being confusing, this movie could have easily been so confusing if it didn't have a decent director. Like you were saying about how he plays with time, they only explain it in one scene that the deeper you go into the dreams, the more time's dilated, so the longer it becomes. So what is a 10-hour flight, so they get on a flight to perform this mine heist on this guy. The flight's 10 hours, but they're like, wait, when we go into this dream, it's going to be 3 months, and then it'll be this many, and at the end of it, it's like, to complete the whole thing, the girl's like, oh, it's going to take 10 years. Who wants to be in a dream for 10 years? And obviously that's not the case. That doesn't happen like that. But then when obviously they go deeper and deeper into these dreams and go to the next level, there's no confusion of why they're able to do this much in such a short amount of time, because it's clearly explained about the whole time dilation thing. And I just, like, I really enjoyed that, because I was watching this movie and it was just so refreshing to not be confused, to have to watch it again in order to understand. You get the gist of the movie the first time round, optional to watch it a second time, but it's only going to improve your experience watching it. It's not necessary, but it's a benefit.
Mm-hmm. I love all these like different set pieces that Nolan's able to employ. I think he does a really good job with set pieces in most of his movies. I think like a big criticism of him that I think a lot of people have is that he doesn't know how to direct a fight scene. But I never feel that with Inception. I think all the fight scenes are like pretty incredible. There's like in the first scene, or like the first sequence where they're in this Japanese house, Saito's house. It's like this huge Japanese building. I love the set design on it. And then like he's got to like fight all these people, and then like he's, because of the time dilation, he's being dunked into this bath in the other on the next level dream, and so like all this water just comes crashing in. It's like, I'm pretty sure they really did that. They just like got like a load of water, just plunged it into this set.
The majority of the effects throughout the film were done practically. Like, obviously there are some like CGI bits, like when like the city starts folding in on itself and stuff, but the majority of it is all done using like practical effects.
They had like the corridor of the hotel. There's like this really famous sequence where like the Joseph Gordon-Levitt's fighting a guy as the hotel corridor
spinning.
Was like
I was going to ask how
that
scene was filmed and if it was actually done like that.
Yeah, it was. I've seen like behind the scenes footage of it. They just built like this huge set and they put it on like this like rig, and it just shifted the set as like, I think they were on like wires being pulled back and forth inside the corridor, and like it's just this big massive corridor set inside this hangar that they were able to film with. It's crazy.
They did something similar with the Amazing Spider-Man, where they just put his room on a revolving or a spinning apparatus, and that's how you got the scenes of him climbing on the wall and stuff. Like, that was just a single room, let alone how massive and how long this corridor set was. And then to have the timing to have the wires pulling them specifically when the room turns and getting everything perfectly in time. It's just that just fucks with my mind, because they must have tried that so many times to get it perfect.
Yeah, Nolan's this big perfectionist, I think. Also love like when like the gravity shifts and like they're all floating there, so he has to like gather them all together into this big bundle. It's great.
Just like it just puts them all in like just ties them all up, just wheels them out like a cart.
This is like, it's like nothing else I've ever seen in any movie comes close to like the feeling I get when I watch this movie. It elicits such a deep, visceral feeling in me that I don't get with any other movie. It's just, it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. What did you guys think about the fact that Leonardo DiCaprio's character, I can't remember his name.
Dom Cobb.
That's the one. And his wife spent 50 years in... I can't remember what they call it. I'm going to call it the void.
In limbo.
Limbo, yeah. That's the one. 50 years in limbo. Could you imagine, like, living 50 years of your life and then coming back into a youthful body and having just all this knowledge and life experience, but also having all of that isolation and just not really knowing if what you're living in is reality or a dream again? Just like when he was explaining that part about when they're talking about like, if we die in this dream because we're so deep in now, we go to limbo, where we could spend 5 years, 50 years, or eternity, thousands, just in this state of just nothingness. And they're just saying, like, how he's saying, like, him and his wife went so deep, and they did it, and they were just there for 50 years, and he just had to implant into her that she had to kill herself in order to get out of the dream, and that transitioned to the real world, and she actually killed herself because of the illusion that she thought she was in another dream. Like, that, for me, that is another part of the movie that just blew my fucking mind.
Yeah. She got incepted.
Yeah, she did indeed.
That whole relationship is like quite heartbreaking in a lot of ways. Like, Christopher Nolan is like constantly criticized for like struggling to have any emotion in his film and struggling to like have deep characters and deep emotions. But I think that whole relationship and the way it transpires and the way that Mao is basically constantly coming in to his dreams and in his subconscious, I think that whole stuff's like very deep and emotional. I think it's done really, really well.
Yeah,
it's heart-wrenching. It's a really great relationship, I think. I love just how like the characters' chemistry. I love Marion Cotillard. She's really great at portraying this tragic character who's just over time become just really like mean, like just like horrible to be around, I guess, just because like of all the shit she's gone through. And I really love that Leonardo DiCaprio's Cobb is just like, he still loves her, and you understand why he still loves her, but he doesn't see his wife in her anymore when he sees her in the dreams.
There's the scene, isn't there, at the end of the film where they go to limbo to get out one of the characters, and he's just sitting down with his memory of his wife, and he's just basically saying, like, you're a fraction of what she was, you don't have her perfections, imperfections, you're nothing compared to her. And then, she just stabs him.
Stabs a lot of people.
Yeah, but I thought that was especially like when he, like, after finding out the backstory of how his wife died, like their relationship themselves, and just the fact that he's had to get away. Like, even his wife was like that crazy. She like wrecked the hotel room, phoned saying that she was scared of how violent he was being, so it forced him to either go on the run or to kill himself with her. But he was like, nah, I'm not doing that. And the fact that he's had to like escape from his kids for so long, and to see the ending where he's just like, nah, I'm not doing this.
Yeah, I also love like this like really high tension scene where Cobb is teaching Ariadne to build to be an architect for the world, and then like you see Mal coming out of like the people who are around here, because like Ariadne has been like disturbing the subconscious
his subconscious
mind. And then like Mal comes out, grabs a knife, and it's just like Cobb screaming as she like stabs them. It's like horrible.
Yeah, but you can just tell he has so much guilt for what has transpired between them both and what he had to do to eventually, like, inevitably get them. Because there's no right or wrong decision in what he had to do.
No.
Because it was either just stay there for eternity and absolutely just lose plot, like the sense of reality, and maybe never get back to their kids, or do what he did. And unfortunately, he'd never done it before, so the consequences were he didn't realise. But you can tell he has so much guilt for what he did do.
When will you learn that your actions have consequences?
Very good impression, Max. I actually thought we were sitting down with the real life actress.
Real life Sammy classic.
But yeah, like I can't say anything but this movie is good and just fucks with your head, but in such a good way.
Yeah. I love Tom Hardy. He's like one of my favourite actors. I think he's great in this as Eames. He's like just always like being a little shit to Arthur. And just like he gets out like this, like Arthur's trying to fend off like these people as they try to get away, and then Eames comes along. He's like, "You mustn't be afraid to dream a little bigger, darling." He gets out this like huge rocket,
grenade
blows
launcher,
blows them off of the building. It's great. Yeah,
I love him. Good. I like their relationship. The chemistry between them both is funny.
Also, like a lot of like emotional resonance between Cillian Murphy's character of Robert Fisher and his father, which I really enjoy, because he's like this whole time he's thinking that he's got to like inherit his father's company, but like he thinks that his father's like dying, and he thinks he's disappointed in him. So you got this emotional turmoil where he's slowly learning, like obviously they're trying to implant they're trying to incept him, trying to implant the idea in his mind to dissolve his father's company. I just really like just everything. Like his acting is fantastic. I love like the scene of him like learning that he's in a dream, like Leonardo DiCaprio taking on this Mr. Charles persona and like having to tell him that he was in a dream. He really plays the character well.
Yeah. I really like when Tom Hardy like he like changes into the his business partner, and like they're talking like being interrogated.
Yeah.
And they're just talking during that. That's something I really like about that scene.
That was like fantastic effects work as well, when like Eames is turning into Peter Browning, and he like takes on his persona and his body, and you see it in the mirror. It like cuts to the mirror of him looking in the mirror, and you see him sitting down, but you see Browning's face in the mirror, in some of the mirrors, and then like it cuts again, you see that he's become more like him as well. I just love it.
Yeah. I like when he turns himself into that woman and like tries to come on to one of the other guys.
Yeah, the Chinese guy. Or when the Chinese guy's walking through and he's like, "Oh, you've changed again." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And Tom Hardy's behind him. It's just like, "No, that's not me."
Wasn't it Japanese?
What was he then?
He was a man called Saito.
Yeah.
He gets shot. Huh? From the Inception.
You said he wasn't Japanese, but what was he then? He's either Japanese, Chinese...
Japanese.
Like that. Yeah.
So he gets shot in like the first dream. I love like his progression throughout the movie, where he's just like slowly being killed by this bullet that he sustained in the first dream. So he has to go into like the next level where he's like slightly recovered a bit, but the bullet's still like eating into him. It's like just really great.
Yeah, and then you get to like the third dream and he's like coughing blood and stuff.
Yeah. And I also like the fact that, like, the second time watching through it, because originally watching it, I was like, oh, I don't understand why the pain or the process of death is so subsided in these subsequent dreams. But then it's, you write it back to, well, time is gradually, like, diluted, so it extends it. And you're just like, okay, I'll get it now.
Yeah.
There's like a part where, Ariadne is in the lift in Cobb's dream, and then like Mal like just jerks her head around, and it's like this like loud sound, like this jump scare. I'm like, why are you putting a jump scare there? Like, what's the point in that? Is this a horror movie now?
I really like the scene where they introduce Ariadne and like Cobb like gets her to make a maze that like takes you. It's like, isn't it? It takes you 2 minutes to draw and 1 minute to solve or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that scene. It's just like, it's a great way to introduce that character and like let you know how like intelligent she is.
Yeah. really good. You see like how she like changes her kind of perception of how to like what kind of maze she should be drawing. She's like doing like squares and like simple mazes that like anybody could do, but then like she goes, I'm just going to draw a circle, and that's how she gets the job.
Yeah, it's a great scene.
I wish that's all it took for me to get a job. Just draw a circle instead of a square.
If only.
I was going to mail Leonardo DiCaprio a circle piece of paper.
It's interesting how they take like an hour to set all of it up, and it takes a really long time before they actually get into the dream. But I never feel like bored with it. It's just like it's very necessary exposition and setup.
Yeah, naturally though, it doesn't seem like you're just being given all this information for the sake of an exposition drop. It's naturally just building the story to where it needs to be. How long was this movie as well? Was it 2 hours? 2.5 hours?
2.5.
Yeah, 2.5.
Yeah.
2:20.
Didn't feel like it.
No, I watched it quite late at night last night, and because it was getting quite late, I was like, oh, I'll watch maybe like an hour and a half of it and then finish it tomorrow. And then like as it was going, I was like, okay, I'll watch like 2 hours and watch the last half hour tomorrow. And I just couldn't stop watching it because I was just having such a good time.
It's not really the kind of movie that... It's definitely the kind of movie that demands to be watched in one sitting. I don't think that, like, it's not like a Barry Lyndon where you can just like take a break in the middle because it like has like an interlude. Like you have to watch this in one hit. Yeah,
there have been many movies on this podcast that I've started and like finished either later that day or taken a break in between. The most notable one was the one that Max recommended about the opera repo thingy. Jesus Christ. I had 4 breaks in that movie in total. 4. It's an hour and a half. But anyway, but yeah, this is definitely like as soon as you press play, that's it. You either finish it or you don't, and you have to start again another day.
I think it's incredibly impressive how, despite the fact it's a 2.5 hour movie, there's never a dull moment in the slightest. Every single scene, there's something happening. It's like the film's constantly moving, constantly exciting. And like even like in the few moments where they do like slow down slightly, they're like throwing like important exposition and dialogue at you. So there's like never a point where there's nothing happening. Every single moment of the film is necessary and entertaining.
Yeah. Like there are so many scenes in movies like where films are way too long and scenes are unnecessary or they don't really need to be in there. But even the slowest points of this movie, like you were saying, Chris, there's still so much story you can pick up on. I mean, there's scenes of like little small scenes of Leonardo DiCaprio staying after hours when everyone's gone home and he's just dreaming, and like that Elliot character is, or the character that Elliot plays is just like watching him, and then that pays off later on because you find out why he was doing it and what he was doing, and it's just like you notice so many small details that are necessary in these smaller scenes.
Yeah.
Like, what I'm trying to say is every scene that you watch, there is something to pick up on and something to help you understand the movie just that little bit more each time you watch it, whereas in most other movies there are just scenes that do not need to be there and are not necessary. But this, even though they are, you don't notice them straight away, on subsequent watches there is just going to be stuff there that you'll pick up on that then makes you think of the movie in a different way, or helps like straighten out points that maybe aren't as smooth as what like in your head. So I can't even explain the fucking movie.
A lot of great attention to detail. I like how when they go into like the first dream, it's raining, when they establish that it's raining because like the guy's dream that they were in drank too much champagne, so now he needs to go to the toilet, and that's why it's raining.
Do you reckon he pissed himself?
Maybe. Who knows?
I hope so.
Yeah, they should have shown that. Like an outtake. Oh, damn it.
Ah, fuck.
So that's like, there's a great part in there where like a train just comes into the scene and it just hits them. It was crazy.
That took me so
off guard. They got an actual
guard.
train.
Yeah, I think the first time I watched it in the cinema, that literally scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Like, and it, like, I was like, why the fuck is there a train in the middle of this thing? And I was like, why on earth has everything just gone to shit? And then you find out that he's had what's it called when they go into the dreams?
Dream walking.
No, it's something specific because he's had that training to train his subconscious mind to battle against it, even when he's not aware.
Yeah, he's been trained.
He's been trained in the art of sleep martial arts.
Yeah, to defend his subconscious and prevent people from coming into his dreams and stealing his thoughts. But I think the train itself was like to do with Cobb, because like there's like a scene where one of like to get out of the dream to get out of the limbo that he's in with Mal, they like put their heads on the train track. And I figured like that was like him, because he's trying not to bring his own things into this stream, so as not to compromise the mission.
Yeah, that's what the architect says to him, isn't it? Like, his dream is affecting, or his subconscious is affecting the dreams that he goes into, because obviously his dead ex-wife is also in these dreams, just fucking everything up towards the end. And it's established that his psyche isn't quite where it should be. And so it makes sense why there'd be a train there.
I like how Mal's name just means bad in French. Oh, yeah.
Not very like subtle.
No.
Yeah, it's fitting, but not subtle. Because she goes mad. All thanks
She's
to
crazy.
a man.
Yeah.
I gotta love the score from Hans Zimmer.
Yeah, I was about to mention
absolutely
that.
amazing. There's a song that they use like right at the end that he wrote called Time, and that is genuinely like one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard composed for a movie. I as soon as like I watched it the first time, I like went on YouTube and searched up Hans Zimmer playing it live, and I just sat there in awe at it. I'm like, damn, this is like so emotionally affecting.
Yeah.
And like I want this song to be played at my funeral, man. It's amazing.
Can I play it?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
I'll be on vocals. Chris can be on guitar, and we'll do a pop punk version of this song just for you, Max, because we know you hate pop punk.
Yeah.
We'll send you off in the worst way possible.
Yeah, I do really love the score. It's like incredibly influential, like already. Like so many people after the film came out like tried to copy it, like especially like very like boomy like sound, like the boom, that bit. That very iconic Inception boom sound. That so many scores have tried to do that since then, but I don't think any have managed to do it anywhere near as good.
Nah. Every time I watch a Chris Stuckman review and he's talking about movies that have that sound effect in it, he always refers to it, and many other movie reviewers always refer to it as the Inception boom.
Yeah.
It's like, and I hadn't even seen Inception. I haven't even seen the trailer for this movie, bear in mind, never. The only thing that I've seen about this movie is that I knew it was about like going into dreams, but I knew that.
Yeah, it's incredibly iconic already. But a lot about this film is quite iconic and like pretty famous, like even despite the fact it's only like a 11-year-old movie, like there's so many like infamous moments, like the city exploding in Ariadne's dream, like the city folding on itself. Like
when I saw that scene of the city folding in on itself, I was like, Doctor Strange definitely 100% took some form of inspiration in its magic sequences when they go in the dark dimension from that.
That was exactly
dark dimension. Sorry,
that was exactly what I thought watching Doctor Strange. Is it was just like Inception.
Yeah. I was like, oh, because when I was watching it, I was like, oh, this copied Doctor Strange. Oh no, wait, this movie came out 5 years before Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange like took influence from this.
Yeah.
Indeed.
But yeah, it was just that part of the movie as well. Even though I'd seen it in Doctor Strange before, like just seeing them walk about and actually like go from walking across the road and then essentially walking up a wall because of the world folding in on itself. I was like, whoa. It definitely puts you in that sort of dream reality without like, there's no like filters or silly filters or like anything added to the scene. It's just the way that they portray the scene, if you get me. Like something as simple as that just puts you in, explains everything to you, and yeah, you're in it.
I guess I just understand why it's gained this status as like a classic, despite being only like 11 years old. But I completely understand it. It's an incredibly unique movie. I don't get this experience anywhere else.
Yeah,
and I will say this again. I'm so glad that I watched it twice.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I go back and watch it a third time and then a fourth, and then you'll probably
maybe in a couple of months. I'll definitely watch it again before summer.
Yeah.
It's the most watched film on Letterboxd. Like, it's got over like 1.3 million people watched it on there, and I think the second most watched Parasite, which has got 800,000.
Damn.
Wow. I'm not really surprised, honestly. It's like an endlessly rewatchable movie. Like, I'm thinking about watching it after we do this podcast, like right now. I might do that because it's just like, it never feels like a chore. And I watched it like 3 times last year within the space of like 2 months just because I wanted to.
I think you should do it. I mean, fuck bedtime. Just do it. You wanna go to bed late? Do it. Watch this movie. Don't only watch it the once. Watch it and then watch it again, but watch it backwards.
People have done that.
Watch it backwards and upside down.
Maybe if you watch it backwards and upside down, there's like a hidden message that no one's ever seen before. Max will be the first to discover what actually happens at the end of this movie.
Put your headphones on, fall asleep while watching it, and it'll incept your dreams.
So what's your guys' interpretation of the end? Do you think he's awake? Do you reckon he's in a dream?
I reckon that he's awake. I reckon it's reality, honestly. I like, there's like, it's just like this cathartic ending. And I think, like, in the end, everything is, they actually do it. They actually pull it off. And it doesn't feel, like, stale or like, and in the end, everything's fine. Whatever. It's like, it's earned. It's just, everything comes together, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And there's, like, maybe it's trying to be, it's trying to play with, like, your perception of maybe it's not true in the end, but I feel like it is, honestly. I just maybe it's like that I just want that to be the case, but I do feel that.
Yeah. Apparently Michael Caine, when he read the script, he was like incredibly confused as to what was real and what was like a dream. So he like asked Christopher Nolan just straight up said to him, every scene that you're in is reality. So that includes the ending.
Oh, but he could be trolling.
Could be. It's just a prank.
It's just a prank, bro. But yeah,
if like Michael Caine came out in like the end, he like pushes Leonardo DiCaprio like off a ledge or something. He's like, "Ha! It was just a prank. It was me the whole time."
Just Dora the Explorer, no Scooby-Doo unmasking. So it was you all along. The fucking hotel owner is Mr. Gustave.
Speaking of Mr. Gustave, there's actually 2 sequences in both the Grand Budapest Hotel and this film that are heavily inspired by the same James Bond movie on Her Majesty's Secret Service. So the ski sequence from the Grand Budapest and just the entire snow-based third level dream in this film apparently were heavily inspired by that film because it's all set on like a ski resort.
Wow.
Is that the one where James Bond's car turns invisible and then he drives up an ice wall to evade another car and spikes come out of his wheels?
Maybe. I don't know. I've not watched it.
Yeah,
what? That's epic.
No, it's so like I was just watching that movie. I remember watching that scene as a kid, and I was like, that's so cool. And then now I'm like, a car went invisible, and then spikes came out of a wheel that's filled with air and can't be punctured, so it can grip onto the wall of an ice cave.
Oh man, they should have done that in this movie.
Yeah, but lads, I'm exhausted with. I mean, I've exhausted all of the avenues that I can talk about with this movie. Unless we want to be here for 3 hours.
This is the kind of movie that you could talk about for 3 hours, honestly.
Yeah, literally, we could, like I said, we could have done like easily a 2-hour episode just unpacking this movie and every detail in it.
Maybe in the future we can do a bonus episode where we watch it together and break it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that'd be good. Well, we could do like a live watch of it.
Commentary track. Yeah.
Yeah.
What the fuck is happening in this scene?
This is the part where Batman comes in.
Ratings?
I've got one bit of trivia quickly.
Oh,
it's a very
so keep that to your fucking self.
It's a very interesting thing about the film. So the film is exactly 2 hours and 28 minutes long, which is a reference to that one song by Edith Piaf that plays throughout. Like the song that plays in the dream to wake them up.
Don't tell me it's 2 minutes 28 seconds long.
It's 2 minutes and 28 seconds long.
One thing, right, which is this is on a very, very minute level in comparison to Inception. David Dobrik's YouTube videos are always 4 minutes 20 long. How do you plan for a movie like this to be that long?
Yeah.
Like, because you'd have to... It's not like he can cut scenes out or shorten a scene down after making the film in the post-production.
I guess
he's crazy.
You can put the credits at a certain speed, so maybe they're super slow just to get it at the right length.
Yeah, maybe that's how they do it then.
Apparently it's also 8,888 seconds long in total.
Yeah, that's just a byproduct of it being 2 hours and 28 minutes long.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
I think this one's easy. We'll give it out of Inceptions.
Yeah, we'll give it out the movie's name.
Yeah.
Nice.
Give it out of Corn on the Cobs.
Next week, Max will be replaced with Kai.
He'll be replaced by a corn on the cob.
Next week, Max is coming dressed as a corn on the cob.
Yeah, ratings then. Yeah, this is an incredible movie. I'm not sure whether I prefer this to Dark Knight. For me, I feel like they're kind of just on par. It's just Christopher Nolan's, like, the peak of his career. But just in terms of blockbuster movies, you can't get any better than this. It's just like incredible attention to detail in every single moment of the film. It's incredibly grand, exciting, never dull or boring. I originally had it rated as a 9 out of 10, but after like waking up this morning and thinking it over, I changed it to 10 Inceptions out of 10.
I was half expecting you to say,
nice.
I woke up this morning, gave it an 8. Lowered the rating.
I decided I didn't actually like the film, and now I give it a 2.
I decided I would have preferred the 2.5 hours extra in bed.
I woke up from my dream where Christopher Nolan told me that if I didn't give this movie a 10 out of 10, he'd come to my house and do some strange things. This is fan-bloody-tastic. I love this movie so much. Honestly, it's like in a top 10 for me, absolutely. It's Chris Nolan's best movie, full stop. No one will tell me otherwise. This is just, it's insane. It's absolutely incredible to watch. When you're watching it, you feel like you've like taken something, but it's like,
Could you imagine watching this film on psychedelic drugs?
I think you'd die.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Yeah, I was reading the comments to the like ending explained video that I watched of this movie, and one of the comments was, "Whatever you do, don't drop acid and then watch this film."
Yeah. But yeah, it's very sleek and it's very clean. It does everything that Tenet tries to do, but good. And like, well, yeah, I really like Tenet, but this is just, it's a lot more uniformed and it knows exactly what it is. And I don't think Tenet does. I think the fact that I've seen it this many times and this short a time span goes to show just how fantastic I think it is. I'm going to give it 10 corn on the cobs out of 10.
I could say everything that I possibly could about this movie, and it still wouldn't do any justice. So all I'll say is, if you haven't watched it, go fucking watch it. This movie gets a 10 out of 10. But Dark Knight is my favourite Nolan film. That would also get a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Nice. It's also amazing.
There we go.
Cool. I think isn't that 2 movies that have been rated that has had a perfect score?
Yeah.
How about that?
Is this
good episode?
Is this our highest rated week?
It might be.
I think it would be if I didn't give Line a 6.
You.
Yeah, but your opinion's invalid, so it's got an 8.
I'll have you know I have a YouTube channel with 4,500 subscribers, so...
Chris, your review of The Lion was like, didn't even have any lines in it.
Is that actually his review of this movie?
Yeah, that was what I wrote on Letterboxd.
You bastards.
Yeah, but with the Grand Budapest, I just put loads of clapping emojis. And I'm pretty sure my review on Letterboxd of Mulholland Drive was, this film exudes Big Chungus energy.
Yeah, Big Chungus energy.
It does.
Thanks for watching episode 20 of the Sunday Movie Marathon podcast.
But before we go, we have some recommendations.
What's yours then, Chris?
Okay, so we watched a film today partly set in Australia, and I don't think we got the full Australia feel. So I'm going to pick a film that's entirely set in Australia and shows you everything you'd expect from the country.
Don't be Kangaroo Jack.
My pick is Kangaroo Jack.
I knew it. Oh, God.
It's on Netflix, so all of us can watch it.
Oh, is it? Oh, brilliant. Well, you know what? I knew you were going to pick your terrible movie recommendation. You had it in the pipeline.
We're definitely reviewing WandaVision next week.
Exactly. I don't think we'll have much to say about it, except the kangaroo isn't in it enough.
Well, you know what's going to contrast really well with Kangaroo Jack is my recommendation. It is a 1983 Russian movie by director Andrei Tarkovsky called Nostalgia.
Nice. Connor's going to have a blast with that movie.
Yeah.
We're going to watch it. Russian. As soon as he said a Russian movie, I was like, fuck's sake. Like, my recommendation is okay, but we're going to go from, like, incredible movies this week to shit.
You don't know that. Kangaroo Jack could be a masterpiece.
Yeah. I saw it in the cinema. How bad can it be?
He's not even in it. He's in it for a fucking dream sequence.
I don't know. I've not seen the movie. How could I possibly know that?
Well, good luck. My recommendation is Four Lions.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I just want to watch a funny movie, and that movie gets me every time, so I'm recommending that.
Kangaroo Jack's a funny movie.
So
the kangaroo raps.
Tune in next week for our WandaVision review, and possibly reviews of these terrible movies. Thanks for watching episode 20.
We don't know they're gonna be terrible. Anyway, we've got our social media. That I need to plug. Okay, so I was just gonna do that now.
I'm just
so fed up. I'm so fucking fed up now. It's like right at the end, it's all falling apart. Jesus Christ, it's like 11 at night. Honestly. All right. Anyway, I'm just gonna do it quick. I'm so fucking sad now. Okay, we got YouTube, the Sunday Movie Marathon. Twitter is at Sunday Movie Pod. Facebook at Sunday Movie Marathon, and Letterboxd at Sunday MM. That's the social medias. Honestly, this is going to be like a weird episode. Honestly, like Kangaroo Jack. It's like this really weird sandwich of a movie. It's like Kangaroo Jack, and then Nostalgia, which is just going to be like absolutely weird. I imagine it'll be quite weird, and then Four Lions. It's going to be a weird episode, so I can't wait.
It's going to be so strange.
Thanks for listening.
This is where we watch the movies, and every movie gets a 10 out of 10.
Can't wait. Yeah.
Alright, thanks for watching. One step closer to episode 25, the super secret special.
Yeah, alright. Jesus Christ.